Get these cards now, as this is the future of anti-meta for Yu-Gi-Oh! What's up YouTube, Dal here from Zephyr War Games, and it is very early in the sneak peek reign, but I've been able to gather all of the Kashtira cards for you so I can show you the type of profile you'll be looking to build at current and point out the ones you desperately need. Massive shout out to Aiden who helped or lent me the cards of the Fernir and of course the Unicorn, as they are the highest rarity cards of the set. The first thing I'm going to say before I dive into profile is do not pay £35 for this card. Okay, from one case we have seen near enough free copies. It seems that we're going to be getting free a case. Yes, it is on the same level as a secret, but I do feel that a lot of these are going to be pulled and it is probably going to drop down to about a £20 card. With all of that out of the way, I'm going to dive headfirst into the profile, show you exactly what we've got, explain what each of the new cards do, and then talk you through the cards you need to be getting now and the cards that you can afford to wait on because they're going to get power crept when we get the second wave of the Kashtira support in Photon Orbital in the new year. So with all of that out of the way, let's dive headfirst into the profile. So of course you start off with the main card, which is why this card is currently hyped at the high price that it is, and that is the Fernir. So if you control no monsters, you get special on this card from the hand. So it is a free summon for any deck as well, which is what makes it generic. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. During your main phase, you get to add a Kashtira monster from your deck to the hand, so it can even search out a second copy of itself. When this card declares an attack, or if your opponent activates a monster effect, except during a damage state, you get to target a face-up card your opponent controls and banish it face down. That is what makes this card so high, that is what makes this card so powerful. It is basically like a new Prankatops, yet 200 attack less. But even then, any deck can play this. You can now play it free, it's a free summon, and if your opponent activates a monster effect, or if you declare an attack, you're starting to banish their cards, which is really, really nice as well. Yes, it does target, but it banishes any card, so you can start dealing with their back row, their front row, anything you need. Then the other Ultra, which is a lot cheaper, this is about £10, and I highly expect this one to drop down, is Triple Unicorn. So again, if you control no monsters, you get special on it from the hand, and you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. During your main phase, you get to add a Kashtira spell from your deck to the hand, which will become even more important when we get the new support, because at the moment, the main card you're going to be searching is going to be Birth. So, when this card declares an attack, or if your opponent activates a monster effect, except during a damage state, you get to look at your opponent's extra deck, and if you do, banish one monster from it face down, which is really important because you're banishing it face down. You can take away core one-offs. Now this is the issue, is it only gets rid of core one-offs, so unless your opponent is activating a monster effect when this card is already on the field during your turn, that's when you'll be able to rip one during your turn, and then you get to rip one during your opponent's turn, which is when you can start taking away their two-offs. But at the moment, unless the deck is specifically relying on one-offs, so when you look at something like Tier Elements, you can probably take away their Kaleido Heart, and you can take away the new Fusion as well. It can be very, very specific. I quite like this as a little mini engine though. Whether you're going to be going for this or whether you're going for the Fernir, the good thing about the Unicorn is because it can search you out Birth. Birth basically lets you normal summon a level 7 monster without tributing during your main phase. So technically, as a Dark Magician player, this would be a great little engine because I could play 3 of this and then 1 of the Birth or 2 of the Burst, and it just means that I could normal summon my Dark Magician without tribute, which is really cool, but it is very niche. Then the last one is the Kashtira Ogre. This one is less relevant because again we've only got one main card we're going to be searching out, but the card we search out in preparations I think is absolutely amazing. So again, you control no monsters, you get special on it from the hand for free, and then you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. During your main phase, you get to add a Kashtira trap from your deck to the hand, and when this card declares an attack, or if an opponent activates a monster effect, etc. in damage state, you get to excavate up to 5 cards from the top of your opponent's deck, and banish one excavated card face down, and then you place the rest at the top of the deck in any, or in the same order, sorry. So what this will give you is it will give you knowledge. If you wanted to excavate 5, it will give you knowledge of the next 5 cards your opponent is going to get, and you get to banish one of them face down. So you could take away a board breaker, you could take away an extender, you could take away a starter, which is really important. The only time you'll probably want to see less is if you don't want to like kind of overcomplicate it for yourself. Like you don't want to see 5 cards and you're like, ugh. You can't rearrange the order or anything like that. But it is nice to see what they're going to draw into, and you can't take it away from there. So that's the Kashtira main deck monsters. Like I said, the issue at the moment is these cards are £40. So like £10 here, £30 there. I highly expect it will be a 20 and like a 5, so you can probably get 25, 25. So you can pick up pretty much what you need for about £75. It's all the older cards that are going to start costing money, but the older cards are only for the here and now, and I'll explain what ones can probably roll over. So I'm currently playing Side Beast. Now I only own 2 copies. I might pick up a third. It's something like £6. The reason that you play Side Beast is it's like an ideal normal summon for the deck. There are other options, which is why I've also got the Segment Dragon here. This is a lot cheaper. This is like £1. This basically is just a normal summon without tribute, but it comes half its attack, but it is a level 7. So it does the same thing as Side Beast, but what Side Beast does as an addition is it does let you banish one of your Kashtras from the deck, meaning that this will become a level 7, and then you set up plays for your Birth. So for example, if you special summon Unicorn, Unicorn searches out Birth. Normal summon the Beast, Beast will then banish Thurnir, and then you could activate the Birth to bring back the Thurnir. So again, it kind of like adds as an additional extender, which is why it's better than the Segment Dragon, but you need to get 3 of these, and then it's like, it was a £2 card, quite like the Diablos, which I'll show you in the extra deck. They've rocketed in value, and it's kind of like, do you want to spend that extra money or not for the playset? I still feel that you might use this when the new support comes out, but they do get their own level 4 that can be special summoned or normal summoned, so it does give you a bit more. At the moment, for free extenders, we are playing the Ascended of Thunder. So it's a level 7 that you pay 3,000 life points to special summon for, well, not free, 3,000 life points. It does have a nice effect that if it's destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you gain 5,000 life points, but I highly doubt anyone's going to do that. This came in Mega Pack 18 and Code of the Duelist, so it is a very old card. I had to dig deep to get these. They're about like $1 online each. I don't know if you would go for it. Like, it is a free summon. It's a card you'd definitely be taking out in game 3 if there's not a lot of time left, because trying to get a 3k swing can be very, very difficult. The other card that has rocketed in value as well is Astral Karibo. Now the reason again this is so good is you reveal a number XYZ in your extra deck and you special summon this card from the hand. If you do, this card's level becomes the revealed monster's rank, so it can become at level 7. However, while this is face up in the monster zone, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except number monsters, and you can only use each of the following effects once per turn. A number XYZ monster that was special summoned using this card as material on the field gains the additional effect that it can't be destroyed by battle or your opponent's card effects. Now you'll see when we get to the extra deck we have a lot of number cards, and an absolute staple of the deck is the Diablos the Mind Hacker. This is like a £15–20 card now, I believe, which is absolutely bonkers. This is a £10 card as well. So really you could cut these out. And what I really like about this deck is it does, at the moment, because it's in its infancy, it has a lot of different variations. Like if you wanted to, you could play the Adventure package, you can take some of this stuff out. You can go full on control, so you could play Rivalries and you just go Psychic because, you know, this is a Psychic. You could go Psychic Control, lock your opponent's board out, you could play Ground Collapse, you could play Drama Duos and Trios and absolutely everything because their XYZ starts locking out front row and back row. Moving on to the hand traps, you know, you don't really care about your graveyard, so Triple D Shifter is absolutely fine. And this one, again, D Shifter is a card that is, especially when it came out in the structure deck, it's one of them hand traps where it's like, if you can play it and it doesn't affect your deck and you actually benefit from it, you 100% need to be playing it. So, Triple D Shifter. Sadly, it's not level 7. If it was, it would have utility with like Sacred Sword, but it is what it is. Triple Ash Blossom, you know, both of these came in the structure deck for Crystal Beast, so you should have these nice and easy. And then 2 Imperm, easily be free, entirely up to you. The thing you've got to see is, I'm playing a little bit of a control engine, so what I mean is the ultimate 2 cards in my deck is Macro and D-Fidger. And the reason I did that is I didn't want to lose to like a Dart, like just a simple Dart Ruler, that's it, game over. I could play Rivalry, but again, it would then restrict me with the amount of plays I could play. So I still wanted to play some form of back row Floodgate, which is why I've gone with, obviously, Ash and Imperm being the staple cards. And you could play Ghost Bell if you wanted to, but you don't really want to play stuff like Veiler, Ogre, or DD Crow, because if you're going to be like locking out the graveyards, all of those cards need to go to graveyard as cost, so you won't be able to actually activate and resolve them. Then we've got Triple Birth. This card's really cool as well. So like I mentioned before, you get to normal summon a level 7 monster without tribute. During the main phase, you can special on one of your non-XYZ Kashtira monsters that is banished or in your graveyard. If your opponent activates a spell card or effect and you control a Kashtira monster, you can target 3 cards specifically in your opponent's graveyard and banish them face down. So it's a nice little DD Crow. The issue is it needs to banish 3. So if they do not have 3, you cannot do that because it's not up to 3. It is exactly 3. Then another free extender, which I hope you guys picked up if you were interested in this deck, is Instant Contact. This was like a £5 secret when it came out, and then people went, hang on a minute, I can pay 1,000 life points and get a free level 7 on the board. Which at this moment in time is exactly what this deck is. It is just, please give me as many level 7 extenders as possible. In the future, it gets a field spell. It gets a monster that can special summon and search stuff. Like, it gets really, really power crept. So you can start losing some of these extenders, which is why it's like, don't go crazy on these. If you've got a friend that's getting rid of them and wants to trade them for something that you pull, do it and you really want to build this deck. Otherwise, just get the Unicorn and the Furniers because they will go up in price in the future. Keep in mind as well, this card special summons a level 7 or lower elemental hero or neo-spatial monster. You have loads of options for that. From your extra deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. While elemental hero Neos is neither on your field nor in your graveyard, the summoned monster cannot attack and its effects are negated. You return it to the extra deck during the end phase. So, number 1, it's not going to stay on the board to go shuffle back. You're going to be using it as XYZ material. Number 2, do not forget, you cannot use their effects unless you have Neos in the field or graveyard, which you are not going to have in this deck, unless you want to adapt it a little bit more that way. So, when you're like, oh cool, I can summon out this Neos monster and then use this effect, or this Elemental Hero monster and use this effect, no, you can't. Its effects are negated. Keep that in mind, as I have seen people say you use its effects. So. Then for our draw cards, we've got Sacred Swords of 7. Again, this works really, really nicely because you banish a level 7 monster from your hand or from your field to draw 2 cards. Now, keep in mind, you've got your Furnier, you've also got your Unicorn, you've also got your Ogre. You then also have the Segment Dragon, so if you do go that route, you've got another target with this if you wanted to play 3 of this instead of 3 Side Beast. And then you also have the Ascended of Thunder. You have plenty of targets to be banishing. Keep in mind that you've got 3, 6, 9, 12, and if you play 3 of this, you've got 15 targets. Ideally, you want to be banishing a Kashtira monster because then you can bring it back with the Birth, and that's where it gets a little bit better. I've then got 2 Trill Tactics. I've just got a bit of space in the deck, so I thought I'd try these out. Again, like I said, if you wanted to, you've got the Brave option. You could go full control, put in rivalries. Gozen really hurts the deck, and there can be only one can hurt the deck as well, so you do need to be careful of facing those. You could put in Board Breakers if you're worried. You could put in stuff like Crossout Designators, Dark Rulers, Droplets, you name it, you can play it. 1 Call by the Grave, and then the control cards of 1 D-Fissure, 1 Macrocosmo, because like I said, we don't care about our graveyard, and especially in a tier matchup, they definitely do. And then the last card, I really like this card. So during either player's turn, you special on one of your Kashtira monsters that is banished or in your hand. Nice, more synergy. If your opponent activates a trap card or effect, and you specifically control a Kashtira monster, and this card is already face up in the spell and trap zone, so it means you can't go, they activate a trap and you chain this. You can look at your opponent's hand, and if you do, banish 1 card from it face down. You can only use each effect once per turn, and it is specifically named, so even if you have multiple copies, you still won't be able to resolve it. But what this does, like the fact it gives you full hand knowledge, and you get to rip one, it's like a Pointer of the Lotus on steroids. Like, it's absolutely mental. I would like to play it more, but then like I said, because it's a hard once per turn, you can search it with Ogre. It's really only one of them ones where if your opponent is going to go out of the way to try and pop it, which I personally would, you can cause a lot of issues. Moving on to the extra deck, we're going to start off with the Kashtira Shangri-La. This card's really cool. Again, keep in mind that in the future, or in the Photon set, we do get another rank 7 Kashtira monster, which is based on Omni-Negate and Steel Materials. It's nuts. So, at the moment, 2+ level 7 monsters. During either player's standby phase, you get to special summon a Kashtira monster from your deck. During either player's standby phase. Either player's standby phase. I can get a Unicorn, a Furnier, or an Ogre, and all of them will then have effects when your opponent activates stuff. What? On top of that, once per turn, each time a card or cards your opponent owns and possesses is banished face down except during the damage step, you get to choose 1 unused main monster zone or spell and trap zone, and it cannot be used while this monster is face up on the field. If this card on the field would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you detach 1 material from this card instead. Now the reason that is so good, each time a card or cards is in your own, so if they activate Desires, if they activate Duality, if they, not Duality, sorry, Prosperity, Extrav, anything like that, you get to lock a monster zone. And it's a shame that it is specifically once per turn. Like, if it was every time, that would be pretty broken. But yes, it is a little bit of a slow burner. You're probably going to be going into Diabolos the Mind Hacker, but it is still really, really cool. So the Mind Hacker, yes, it was a previous prize card. Again, it's generic rank 7. And then once per turn, you detach a material from this card to look at your opponent's extra deck and banish 1 monster from it face down. At the end of the battle phase, if this card destroyed a monster by battle, you can target 1 card in your opponent's graveyard and banish it face down. If a card your opponent owns and is possessed is banished face down, while you control this card except during the damage step, you can banish cards from the top of your opponent's deck face down. equal to their face down banished cards. Only use each effect once per turn. So this is going to get like a triple banish face down. And then if you've got your Shangri-La on the board, you're going to be locking out a monster zone and banishing more. Like, it's absolutely crazy, the synergy between the two, which is why this card has rocketed in price. It is a number target, so obviously continue with the number targets off of your Astro Karibo. You got the Diabolus, you got the Big Eye, you got the Harmonizing. I'll talk about this in a minute. And then you also got Titanic Moth. Now, again, in the future, once they get new support, you're probably going to drop the Titanic Moth. You might even drop Big Eye. Everyone should know what Big Eye does by now. Titanic Moth and the Harmonizer. Titanic Moth is if you control no other monsters, it get to attack directly, but when you do so, the battle damage inflicted to your opponent is halved, so it'll become 1200. But when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you detach a material and then inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each card in their hand. So if they're like stacking and you just go, cool, let's go, burn, and especially in time as well, going to come up. The Harmonizer, I really rate. I like this card, even before this deck came out. So, generic rank 7. This card's attribute is also treated as each of its materials attached. Now, keep in mind, the Kashtira monsters are water, wind, and I believe earth. So, straight away, it's going to be a water, wind, or a water, earth, light monster, which is really, really cool. It cannot be destroyed by battle with a monster of the same attribute, and cannot be destroyed by the activated effects of opponent's monsters with the same attribute. Quick effect, you target one monster in your opponent's graveyard. Detach one material from this card, and if you do, attach that target to this card as material. So that's really cool, because it's like a quick effect, in a sense, DD Crow. The issue is, you need to be careful, because when you detach, if you're detaching as cost, fine, but if you're detaching as effect, you can start triggering tier effects again, which is something you don't want to do. However, as a fact that it is a quick effect DD Crow rank 7, again in specific matchups, it can become very important. You then got the Red Eyes Flare Metal, so, you know, the OG Masquerade before Masquerade was even a thing. This card burns your opponent for 500 on resolution of every card effect. Draco Sack is very sad because in OCG land they also have Tomahawk, which Tomahawk just spawns your board with tokens, which allows you to make link plays, but we have that banned, sadly. So the next closest thing we can have is Draco Sack. And then of course we've got the Divine Arsenal AA Zeus, just to kind of clear boards off. You are playing XYZs, it is very easy to get into it. Moving on to your instant contact targets, I've gone with Aqua Neos and Flare Neos just because I like the idea of water and fire. It can help with the Harmonizer as well. But probably one that's going to be more easily accessible for everyone is going to be the Knight. The Knight is like £2.50, I believe, last time I checked. So your Hero Neos Knight. Again, if you wanted to go more down the harmonizing route, you could start playing like find element heroes that are darks and lights and everything like that. But I quite like, you know, the opposites between it. So obviously water and fire. I think it works nicely. Moving into links, I've got the one Almirage. This is purely if. Now I'm not 100% sure on the way the side beast works, but I'm 99% sure that even if it did banish for cost, which is great, even if it still gets impermed, it will lose its level. So you still need a way of getting rid of it. So that's where Almirage can come into play. It's when you think about it, like the only thing you're going to be able to do is you're going to either go Almirage or you're going to go into IP Masquerina. So you would like to think that by the time you've got to your normal summon of your side beast, you would have already like special summoned one of your Kashtira monsters, tried to use this effect to search, and that's when you've been hit with an imperm. Then you normal summon the side beast using your normal summon, banish one from the deck, and then start making your rank 7 plays. IP Masquerina, so like Mecha Phantom Beast, spawn 2 tokens, IP Masquerina, and then you've got an instant unicorn during your opponent's turn, and then Appaloosa and Access Code. Now again, like I said, in the future, when this deck does get its new support, these cards will probably start to swap out and change. So if you don't already own them, don't go out and get them, in my opinion, unless you're desperate to play this deck. But I feel right now it's one of these decks that's for the future. You want to be looking into it. You want to make sure you get the Kashtira cards, especially the commons and supers, very, very early. You can wait for the ultras to drop a little bit, and they will do so. It's just knowing when to dive in to pick them up without paying extraordinary amounts. Now, all the pre-releases for the Furniers have been selling at £30 odd, which is absolutely crazy. But once people, keep in mind, this is before people even got the boxes. So Sneak Event is the first time people are actually going to be able to look at the boxes and go, okay, let's see what the ratios are get. Let's see how many people from this sneak and this sneak got what, and then kind of go from there. So, I hope you like this. I hope this gives you a couple of ideas in your own build. Like I said, there are different variations for this deck, which is why I like the idea behind it. And I think that it does give what I've been missing for Yu-Gi-Oh! A little bit, is a bit of creativity behind the decks, which is really, really nice. And I am, you know, if you're a Dark Magician player, you're going to be relatively a rank 7 fan. So, yeah, I think it's really cool. I think it's something interesting to see. and I can't wait to see where this deck goes. But at the moment, while everything is ultras, keep in mind the future stuff may be secrets and higher, is definitely worth picking them up, trying to get them in trade, doing what you need to do, because I feel that this will be a fun deck to be playing around with, and I feel it also has future strengths coming out as well. But as absolutely always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.